executive today might have been expecting some sort of compensation in regards to perhaps a note or something placed on a public comment that I made to the Federal Reserve last year on right now my record says it's June 7th, 2019, which means today would be 10 years after the 1 year. I love keeping track of these timelines. There was an announcement today that Juan Orlando Hernandez, the president of Honduras, had been diagnosed as having COVID 19. The first sitting head of state to have COVID 19. Okay, well, I made some comments. I found this out before 5 o'clock p.m. my time. I'll have to check to see if what time it was on the East Coast. But I posted this comment to the Federal Reserve regarding the market risk capital rule. And around the time that the time frame for this came due, there's some very interesting activity happening otherwise. And over the weekend, things got recharacterized, right? Because I said no, right? I said no to your derivatives, right? I mean, it's been addressed. It's on the public record. The central bank of, or the Federal Reserve Bank has its own policies. It had a public comment period. You didn't respond. You launched a biological terror attack. You're trying to do things in another way. Okay, fine. But let's address the matters as they were at the time they were presented. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I will just go into this. I said, in consideration of the Office of Management and Budget's rules regarding capital market risk, one must first address the as of yet outstanding issues regarding the use of derivative agreements, mentioned on March 14th, 2019. Until now, there's been no response on an official level to this or more than 3 years' worth of reporting efforts on accusations that derivative agreements have been used in regards to provision of resources for people engaged via the Health and Human Services Department of the U.S. and other social service programs, including those connected to acquisition of health insurance. Rather than focus on compliance implementation with attendant appropriate disciplinary measures being enforced, what we have seen is a continued process of recharacterizing allegations of fraud, waste, abuse, and other forms of malfeasance into some sort of risk assessment that is approached and engaged in manners insufficient to the profundity of the implications of the original allegations. This has been demonstrated several times in just the past year in the following regards. 1. The removal of the 10-year period for HUD deeds that instead focuses on a mere 1-year warranty for repairs that were provided prior to the closing. 2. Changes in the HHS system classification of data to information and other issues concerning changes to standards regarding human test subjects in medical experimentation. And 3. Changes to the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services around categorizations of risk as revenue for consideration by private companies and others involved with the financialization of healthcare services and provision before and in lieu of apprising patients or service recipients of their most basic rights concerning the use of their data or information in regards to various means by which risk is assessed or effectuated. On a specific important occasion, I have discerned potential security and safety concerns regarding Form 4s for companies that issue stocks on dates of major importance to those who are in need of the sorts of protections compromised by the above mentioned. The use of the OMB control number is one of the potential security concerns that needs to be discussed, as is the potential use of cryptocurrencies for federal budget and or other federal funding paradigms, especially in consideration of the lack of disclosure regarding the development of cryptocurrencies, as well as how it is that their normalization is being promoted at this time with so little public information about their impact on behavioral science techniques that have been applied elsewhere. These concerns are both national in focus as well as international in focus and go to the highest levels of global emergency services provision and finance. A specific case concerns an April 20th, 2018 announcement by the World Bank. Where are the reserves that would be called upon to offset any needs for an attendant market? Can we get an answer to that question before we continue on this course? It's dated for June 7th, 2019 at 2:17 p.m. Central Standard Time. Now, it's possible that someone has altered this version that's on my desktop now. I have backups somewhere. It may or may not correlate with what is on the Federal Reserve site at this time, and or may not have been published in the official record that would provide an archive or accessible information concerning public comments. If I am correct, this World Bank reference regarding April 20th of 2018 was concerning because there were also references to a World Health Organization conference involving medical data in Russia around the same time or 1 month apart from another WHO conference in China. That might be in another public comment. But the point of the matter is, these three concerns have to this day not been addressed. And not only have they not been addressed, can we say, shouldn't somebody have fucking paid attention a year ago? Because those are the exact three primary keys one would need to analyze how they've operationalized this COVID-19, who would have the vested interest in its promulgation, and what they're expecting to get out of it. The change of of data to information allows for a genomic or biologic recharacterization of patient medical records for the purposes of financialization, which has already been something that needs to be discussed. How many states? I've already looked at the states. I've looked at the time and date stamping on the state waivers regarding Medicare programs, specifically because of COVID-19. And then the 1-year warranty on repairs to a house, as opposed to having to deal with the 10-year period for HUD deeds. We're in a 1-year period right now. You know, this would be that 1-year period's implementation. They've backdated it to COVID-19. What if all you needed was to clear that 1 year? Or you had one of those 10-year deeds, HUD deeds, that was still in effect. They didn't cancel all of the other HUD deeds that were still in effect. They just stopped issuing new ones. It's exactly, and how many of us are in our houses? How many of us are in our houses, and how many people have to readjust their concepts of what they're going to do about the financing for their houses, and are having their lives coded to a medical malady while they're working from home or teleconferencing or telecommuting, in effect turning their homes into some sort of medical billing and coding moment. And what was the other one? Changes to the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services around categorization of risk as revenue. Risk as revenue? So risk in a public health paradigm is completely different than risk in a financial scheme. And if you're talking about the risk of contracting a respiratory illness just by going outside, then you can do things like keep numbers on people going to certain places that are allowed to be open, and you can use that and assess or prize that as some sort of risk and characterize it according to concepts of revenue, as opposed to actual benchmarks that need to be made for health-related standards. So how high up the risk chain do you have to hit somebody with that biological weapon before you've obtained enough revenue to cease and desist the operationalization of that biological weapon? If you look at it just with those, and there's other points, not just this public comment, but other public comments, you just evaluate it from those 3 points. Just evaluate it from those 3 points. The removal of the 10-year period for HUD deeds that instead focuses on a mere 1-year warranty for repairs. changes in the HH system classification of data to information, as well as standards regarding human test subjects in medical experimentation, and changes to Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services around categorizations of risk as revenue.